I didn't want to go on our family vacation because my sister always makes me babysit late at night. Every time we go out, I'm stuck looking after my 3 nephews. It got so bad that I had to move out of my parents' house. Last summer, we went to the beach for vacation. My parents paid for my hotel room, but I had to share it with my rowdy nephews because my sister and her husband wanted their own room. They said I'd have time for myself, but I ended up babysitting again. I complained to everyone about how I felt, but they reminded me that I was getting a free trip. We mostly did only one thing I wanted to do, which was visit an art gallery. I love doing this when I'm at the beach, but the kids don't like it. This year, my parents planned another beach trip for June, assuming I'd go along like last year. But I refused. I said I'd drive myself and pay for my own hotel room so I could have my own space. My parents were surprised and tried to remind me of the cost, but I told them not to worry. I have a good job and a reliable car, so I can afford it. That's when the argument started. I explained my reasons for wanting to do things differently this time. I want to enjoy this vacation as an adult and not feel like a child like last year. My parents told my sister about my plans, and she called me angrily. She said I'd ruin the vacation if I didn't help with her kids. I got upset and yelled back, telling her how she always made me babysit last year. I didn't get to do what I wanted, like going to an art gallery. I'm a grown man, and I deserve to enjoy my vacation too. Now my sister isn't talking to me, and my parents want me to ride with them to avoid conflict. I'm still saying no, but it's hard with all the pressure. Am I wrong for sticking to my decision? I know it'll be tough for my sister to handle her kids without anyone's help. Update: it's only been an hour since I posted, but my sister saw it on Reddit. She's really mad at me and upset that people in the comments aren't taking her side. She went on a big rant about how hard it is to raise triplets and how I should help because I'm young, single, and she needs a break. I didn't change my mind, so now she's calling our parents to get them involved. I'm waiting for their call. Update: I finished work, so I can tell you more about what happened. It's all done now. My sister got her parents involved. They saw my post and were shocked by all the comments. They're mad that I posted here, but I told them if they listened to me in the first place, I wouldn't have needed to. I'm tired of always having to keep the peace at my expense. They got mad at my sister instead. Long story short, the vacation is canceled. The hotel wasn't booked yet, but my parents are arguing with my sister. She's blaming me, and my nephews are upset they're not going to the beach. My sister called me at lunch and hinted that I don't have a life, so I should help. I recorded it and told our parents, and that's what they're arguing about now. Small update. I wasn't going to update again, but here's a little more. Parents said that they won't ever push babysitting of my nephews on me again and have agreed that what happened last year was unfair to me. Right now, they're very angry with my sister for telling me I should help her because she thinks I have no life. My sister is playing the victim, and my brother-in-law is basically saying nope to the whole mess and spending most of his time at work. Thank you to everyone who has commented. You made my day. Update 1. My parents said sorry, but my sister didn't. At least not at first. A week ago, I made this new account to ask if I was wrong. Turns out I wasn't. There's so much to tell that I couldn't fit into the original post, so a friend suggested I come here. When I asked if I was wrong, it caused a lot of trouble in my family. Basically, my parents and older sister got used to me helping with my young triplet nephews. I stayed home until I was 22 to save money while going to college. A scholarship helped a lot, and living at home kept me from getting too much debt because I worked part-time. I'm really grateful for that. But after college, everyone acted like I had all the time in the world and dragged me on a family vacation. During that vacation, I had to babysit my 3 6-year-old nephews. I even had to share a hotel room with them, and let me tell you, those kids didn't listen to anything I said. On the first night of the trip, I had to call their mom twice because the kids were misbehaving. But I got blamed for wanting to do other things during the vacation. It seemed like if the whole family didn't like something, it didn't happen, which was unfair because I'm part of the family and didn't get a say. I told my parents about this after my last post, and they admitted they were wrong. After that terrible vacation last year, I decided to move out before the summer ended, which surprised everyone because I didn't warn them. I got a great job right after college thanks to an internship and moved to cut my commute from 45 minutes to 15. My sister was mad because she wouldn't get free babysitting on weekends anymore, but she still tried to make me do it. Sometimes I gave in, especially if there was pizza involved, and it became a habit. But last month, my parents said we're going on another family vacation to the same place, and they wanted it to go the same way as last time. I quickly realized it was a setup. If I let my parents book the hotel rooms and rode with them, I'd end up in the same mess as last time. So I calmly said I'd drive myself and pay for my own stuff. That's when everything blew up. My parents begged me, and my sister tried to pressure me by making me doubt myself. But I didn't give in. After standing up to my sister, I posted on Am I the Jerk? Because of all the pressure. My sister found the post in less than an hour, and things got messy. At first, my family was against me. My sister called our parents, who then called me in the morning. They were on the phone with me while reading my post. They tried to say it was exaggerated, but I pointed out details that showed it was true. Then I told them to check the comments. There were too many for them to read, so I kept updating them. I told them I was tired of always having to make peace by giving in to my sister. Then I told them I had to go, and we'd talk more later. My parents were shocked to see hundreds, maybe thousands of comments in just a few hours. Later, I updated them that the numbers had doubled and were still growing, which made them even more shocked. So they had to really think about what they'd done. My sister kept trying to call me while I was at work, but my phone was silent until lunchtime, so she could only leave messages and texts. She finally got through to me during lunch. She was upset because my post made our parents mad at her. They argued, and my parents ended up canceling the whole vacation. They later admitted they were embarrassed and blamed each other. They said they were wrong to always make me babysit for free when I wasn't even living at home anymore. They tried to say they didn't charge me rent during college, but I reminded them that kids don't ask to be born, and I was trying my best to make my own way. Then I reminded my parents that my dad got the same help from his parents when he was in college. That ended the argument. When my sister called me at lunch, I told her the facts, and she didn't react well. She basically said I don't have a life and should spend my weekends helping her because she's tired and can't go out without her kids unless someone watches them. But she's a stay-at-home mom with a husband who makes good money, and they own their house. My nephews aren't really my responsibility. They just assumed they were. My sister hung up angrily, but I recorded the call and played it for my parents later. They were mad and fought with my sister. She blamed me and insisted my life should revolve around hers. I told her that was selfish. It took days, but her husband made her apologize to me. She seemed really sorry, which was unusual for her. It came out that one reason I was always asked to babysit was because my sister didn't trust strangers. It wasn't really about the money, but maybe it was. My brother-in-law thought my sister paid me for babysitting. But after I moved out, she didn't even give me gas money. She just gave me cash, enough for pizza for me and the kids, and kept the rest. She'd been shortchanging me for months. He got mad when he found out during her weak apology. She had to pay me back from her own savings, which she didn't like. Then he apologized for not standing up for me and promised to hire a babysitter from now on. It'll cost them, but my sister will get her date nights back. We had a family meeting where we all talked things out. There were apologies all around. Then my parents said we're still having the family vacation. I'm still driving myself and paying for my own hotel. If my sister tries to make me babysit again, I'll stay in a different hotel. She promised she won't do that. If I don't update after the vacation in a month, everything's fine. Update 2. My sister called me, demanding I delete my posts. She's even more upset now that she knows how many people saw them. It's not great having a family that knows about your Reddit account. Yesterday, she called me after work to ask if comments were still coming in. She said she couldn't handle reading them herself because they were all mean to her. So I told her the truth. About 10 comments still come in every day, and they mostly say the same things about her. She started crying and begged me to delete my posts, but I said no. I told her she can cry to anyone she wants, but the posts stay up because they're my way of making sure she doesn't treat me badly again. She basically thought my life should revolve around hers, didn't pay me for babysitting, and made me babysit all the time during last year's family vacation. So I didn't have any fun. It's no surprise people hate her for treating me like that. When I mentioned that the posts had spread to other websites and some articles and videos were made about it, she screamed and hung up. Then my parents called, begging me to delete the post. I said no because they didn't stand up for me. If they'd told my sister to treat me like an equal instead of a servant, none of this would have happened. I'm not her servant or babysitter. I'm her brother, and I'm grown up. Wouldn't they be tired of this if they were in my shoes? They agreed but still begged me to delete the post. I said no and told them I'll keep posting if they don't stand up for me more when my sister complains. Let her solve her own problems because enabling her caused this mess. I didn't have those kids. I have my own life, a new career, and I want to ask someone out soon. I'm moving forward and I won't let them hold me back. They can either support me or keep enabling my sister, but I warned them that enabling her would end badly. I said I'd only stop posting if the drama stops. I kept things anonymous, and I have the right to vent my frustrations. My mom cried, my dad stayed silent, and I told them tears won't change my mind. They know what they need to do to end this, stop enabling my sister. So my sister called again to yell at me because our parents told her they're not getting involved and she needs to sort things out herself. They also told her to be nicer to me. I could practically see her eyes twitching when she heard that. I was pretty sarcastic with her, and she ended up crying when I hung up. Later, my brother-in-law called to hear my side of the story. He was upset that I'm still posting and made his wife cry, but I explained everything to him, and he said he'd talk to my sister again. I hope this drama ends now, but the family vacation is still on for late June. I've already booked my own room and asked for a day off work so we can leave on a Friday. My room isn't near my parents, sisters, Bill's, and nephew's rooms. It's not even on the same floor. When we go to the coast, if it's not a family activity, I'm going to do what I want. I'll visit art galleries, eat local food, and just enjoy myself for a change. Update 3. The family vacation is over, and some things went as expected, both good and bad. Good because my parents didn't let my sister make me babysit. Oh, she tried, but it didn't work. But it was bad because my sister tried to find out which room I was in, which got her in trouble with her husband again. First, I told the hotel not to give out any of my information to anyone except the police. They promised they wouldn't. On the day of the vacation, I left earlier than the rest of the family. They wouldn't be ready until at least 10 a.m., so I left at 9 a.m. check-in wasn't until 1 p.m., but I wanted to be early. I sent a group text and headed out to make the 3-hour drive. My parents were upset because they had planned a family brunch on the way, but I didn't know about it, so we just had fast food instead. When I got to the hotel, it was too early to check in, but I told the staff not to give out my information to my parents or sister. They said they don't do that, but I told them I know it sometimes happens, so I'm being careful. I told them not to give out my information if my mom, sister, or nephews try to ask for it. They promised only I would have access to my room. Then I went out to eat. When I came back over an hour later, I saw my parents' car and my brother-in-law's SUV. I made sure the lobby was empty before checking in. The clerk said my family asked about me and where I was staying, but they refused to tell them. My sister tried to push it, but her husband stopped her. I checked in, went to my room, and called my parents. I didn't mention what happened with the clerk, and they didn't bring it up either. Then we all met up as a family to go out and explore. At one point, my sister asked me to watch her kids for a bit. I refused because I knew what she was up to. She'd say she'd be back soon, but end up gone for ages. I called her out, and her husband told her to stop asking me to babysit. Instead, she started crying, saying she needed a break. Her husband reminded her that he's tired too, but he's not complaining. My mom gave me a mean look, so I went over and told her if she even thought I should babysit, I'd leave the vacation right then. It's not my job, and I'm tired of them treating me like it is. That made my mom cry too, and she kept saying you're right over and over. It's an old trick of hers to make me feel guilty, but I just said, I am right, and walked away. Neither my mom nor sister tried anything for the rest of the day. When we got back to the hotel after dinner, my family crowded into the elevator, but I waited for the next one. My sister gave me a mean look because she knew what I was up to. I sat in the lobby watching YouTube for 15 minutes before taking the elevator up. I was on a different floor, far away from them. I had a great night. The next morning, we all went out for breakfast, but I made sure they left first. I was the last one out, just like the night before. Breakfast was good. Then I told them I'd be doing my own thing for the day. My mom mentioned plans to go to the aquarium and some other places, so I said I'd meet them later, but the rest of the day was mine. They agreed, and the day went well. When we got back to the hotel that evening, my sister saw me leaving my room. She must have been searching the whole floor to find me. I went back to my room to rest before dinner because I was tired from walking. My sister was nearby. When I left my room for dinner, she tried to corner me and said I'd ruin the vacation for her because she had to take care of her kids alone. I disagreed because our parents were helping her a lot. I told her I'm tired of being blamed for everything and to leave me alone. I started walking, ignoring her yelling. She followed me to the elevator, but we didn't talk. I told my parents and brother-in-law that my sister had stalked me to find my room. She was scolded and she had a pity party. I told her to stop acting like a victim and grow up. The days when she could control me were gone. Then I left the lobby and went to my car. This time I got to dinner first. When everyone else arrived, my sister looked sad, but we didn't talk about what happened before, and that was okay with me. My sister didn't talk to me the whole evening, and I didn't care about riding in the elevator with them. I told them not to disturb me unless it was an emergency because I had the do not disturb sign on my door. The last day went smoothly. Neither my sister nor my mother bothered me. They had given up by then. During the vacation, I played with my nephews a bit. I'm not mean. I just didn't want to babysit. The kids didn't mind. They just wanted to play. I even bought them each a little bag of crystals and stones as a souvenir. There were some small arguments between my sister and her husband, but I ignored them. Overall, I'd say the vacation was a success because my mother and sister realized they couldn't control me anymore. Update 4. My mother and sister saw my last post. They just can't leave things alone. I warned them that if they didn't stop, I'd go back to Reddit, and here I am. The short version is that they freaked out after seeing my post. My sister had been checking my account for days because she knew I'd post something. Well, what did she expect? That I would just say everything was fine. She called me and cried, saying I made her look like a bad mother. I replied, well, if the shoe fits. My sister argued with me more, but I asked her to name anything in the post that wasn't true. She tried, but I pointed out that every detail was correct. So what did she do? She called Mom. Then my mother showed up at my door demanding I delete all the posts. I said no, and now I have more material for another post. I ended up making her leave crying. I had a serious talk with my parents on the phone later. I told them that their support of my sister's behavior caused all the problems in the family. I made it clear that I won't go back to the way things were, so they shouldn't hope for it. My parents then told my sister to stop blaming me and leave me alone. They can't handle the stress anymore. My sister felt sorry for herself, but my parents snapped her out of it. My brother-in-law has a cult. I think he's trying to stay out of the drama. But this can't be good for his marriage or our relationship. So out of respect for him, I'm sorry, but your wife went too far. My parents want my sister to get counseling because she can't handle being a mom and trying to keep up her old habits. She needs to be responsible. I hope this is my last post. If my sister keeps treating me like her personal servant and blaming me for everything, we can't be around each other. Maybe we can move past this if she's willing to change. I won't write anything else about her on Reddit. I'll only talk about my own experiences. If she treats me with respect, this will all be over. Got it? Update 5. My parents and I had a long chat and they apologized. We've decided to keep some distance until Thanksgiving. I also talked with my brother-in-law over beers last night. He's making my sister get counseling or he might leave her. They're finding a counselor for her now. He said my sister was mean to me at home, but she's a loving wife. He also said she had some issues from being an only child. She agreed to counseling and will go when they set it up. They found a babysitter for my nephews too. My brother-in-law also said he was mad at me but didn't help when he should have. We agreed it was a bad situation, so we're putting it to rest. Lastly, these posts helped me get a girlfriend. She figured out it was me and waited for me to say something. We're going on our first date tonight. Thanks to everyone here for the support. It meant a lot.
I caught my husband in the act of cheating, an experience I never thought I'd have. Most people would likely confront their spouse upon discovering evidence of infidelity, but I stumbled upon the truth firsthand in a setting I never anticipated, surrounded by unsuspecting witnesses. Suspicions about their relationship had lingered in my mind, but nothing prepared me for witnessing my husband's betrayal so publicly. My name is Christina, a stay-at-home mom to a 6-year-old son. On the day of the incident, my husband had a rare day off, and we had plans for a family outing. However, when I awoke, he was already gone. A message informed me he was tending to his feverish sister, and with no one else home, he expected to return in the evening. As the message came through, a heavy sigh escaped my lips. I had promised my son a day of fun at the amusement park, and he had eagerly anticipated it since the day before. I knew my husband had been shouldering a significant workload lately, immersed in a major project for the past 6 months without respite. This day was meant to be a rare opportunity for our family to bond. Instead, he chose to attend to his sister's needs. She supposedly had a fiancé, rendering her capable of managing on her own. Yet my husband's penchant for playing caretaker to his sister prevailed. It wasn't the first time his sister's needs took precedence over our family plans. His fixation on his sister had always unsettled me. He once admitted that he was drawn to me because of my resemblance to her, coupled with my supposedly exceptional qualities. While I acknowledged his sister's beauty and kindness when I met her long ago, being likened to her always left me feeling uneasy. It seemed the highest compliment he could offer, but the underlying implications left me feeling uncomfortable. My husband used to express his desire for both a son and a daughter, often initiating intimacy. However, since the birth of our son, there's been a noticeable decline in our physical connection to the point where it's non-existent now. Considering our youth and my husband's prior enjoyment of intimacy, suspicions arise that he may be seeking it elsewhere. Betrayal is one thing I could perhaps forgive, albeit reluctantly, but what troubles me more is his consistent absence, even on days off like today. Spending time with our child should be a natural inclination, yet he seems indifferent. Our son, deeply attached to his father, becomes distraught when he's absent. Despite ample opportunities, my husband fails to engage with our son, neglecting simple gestures like birthday gifts or attending school functions. Instead, he retreats to his room, engrossed in endless gaming sessions, disconnected from family life. If this continues, our once close father-son bond risks fading into unfamiliarity. I grew increasingly skeptical of my husband's claims about being engrossed in a major project, considering his prolonged absences from home. Seeking clarification, I reached out to a former classmate employed at the same company. Is my husband truly buried in work as he claims? I inquired, a hint of suspicion in my tone. My classmate chuckled before responding, absolutely not. If anything, your husband has earned a reputation as a window-side employee. He appears disinterested and clocks out on time every day. Confirmation of my suspicions sent a wave of realization crashing over me. It aligned perfectly with my observations. Despite purportedly leading a significant project, his modest salary and lack of exhaustion contradicted his narrative. Such inconsistencies only fueled my doubts about his fidelity. Frustration weighed heavily on me as I finished preparing breakfast. Glancing at the time, I furrowed my brow in concern. It was unusual for my son not to be up by 7 a.m., especially since he typically woke early. Now, it was already past that hour, and if we didn't hurry, he'd miss the nursery school bus. Hastily, I made my way to his room to rouse him. Entering his room, I found him still fast asleep. "It's morning, sweetheart. Time to wake up," I called out, expecting a swift response. Instead, all I heard was a strained groan. Alarmed, I reached out to touch his forehead and was met with intense heat. Anxiety surged through me as I gently shook his shoulder, urging him to wake. "Mama, I can't breathe," he murmured weakly, his words sending a chill down my spine. Panic threatened to consume me as thoughts raced through my mind. With news of an outbreak at the nursery school circulating, dread seized me. Could my son be afflicted too? Reports of children succumbing to the illness only heightened my fear, and I dreaded the possibility of losing him. In a frantic bid for help, I reached for my phone, dialing my husband's number repeatedly. Yet each attempt went unanswered, leaving me to grapple with fear and uncertainty alone. Without a moment to spare, I bypassed waiting for an email response and reached out to my mother for urgent first aid guidance. With her nursing expertise, she was my go-to expert in moments like these. Swiftly following her precise instructions, I fashioned an ice pack and took my son's temperature, finding it alarmingly high at over 102.2 degrees Fahrenheit. Without hesitation, I dialed for an ambulance and tended to my son, ensuring he stayed hydrated while awaiting medical assistance. Concerned about the potential for heat stroke, as my mother had cautioned, I acted swiftly to mitigate any further risks. As the ambulance arrived, I faced the sobering reality that I couldn't accompany my son due to infection precautions. Left with no alternative, I hailed a taxi and hurried to the hospital where he would be treated. Throughout the ordeal, I persisted in attempting to reach my husband, despite knowing the futility of my efforts. Dishearteningly, my attempts went unanswered, prompting me to leave a desperate message online, clinging to the hope that he might see it and respond if he possessed a shred of responsibility. Upon reaching the hospital, I anxiously awaited outside the emergency treatment room, fervently praying for my son's swift recovery. Memories of losing my father in a similar emergency room flooded my mind, igniting fears of losing my son as well. As I grappled with the possibility of another devastating loss, my mother, a steadfast source of support, offered reassurance, her words a comforting refrain amidst the turmoil. An hour later, relief washed over me as I received news of my son's rescue. However, medical advice dictated a week-long hospital stay for his recovery, prompting his transfer to a hospital room. Despite the harrowing ordeal, my husband remained absent, compounding my sense of isolation. Determined to provide for my son's needs, I returned home the following day to gather essentials and decided to bring him some fruit as a gesture of care. Wanting to express gratitude to the doctor who had aided us, I made a detour past the emergency room, only to find chaos unfolding within its confines. Sensing I might be in the way, I postponed my visit to the doctor, turning to head towards my son's room. It was then that I witnessed a startling sight. A man and a woman on a stretcher, their bodies entwined as if caught in a bizarre embrace. The scene hinted at a precarious situation, one where they appeared to be joined together, perhaps a consequence of a mishap during intimate moments. I navigated the chaotic scene, my mind filled with sympathy for those caught in such a vulnerable predicament. The embarrassment of being transported in such a manner must be excruciating, I mused, attempting to pass by discreetly. However, my thoughts were abruptly interrupted as my gaze locked with that of a familiar face. Under ordinary circumstances, the encounter might have been merely awkward. Yet for me, it was nothing short of shocking. My husband lay on the stretcher, his expression betraying surprise at our unexpected reunion. "What are you doing here?" I blurted out, astonishment coloring my voice. Caught off guard, my husband stammered, well, I've caught my sister's cold," his words faltering in the face of my inquiry. Confusion clouded my mind as I grappled with the surreal coincidence of encountering my husband in the same emergency room where our son had been admitted just the day before. Questions swirled in my head as I watched him being transported, unclothed, alongside another woman. Who was she, and why were they together? Amidst my bewilderment, my gaze met the eyes of the woman accompanying my husband. Despite the chaos, a flicker of recognition sparked within me. Even in my state of disarray, I couldn't deny the truth staring back at me. This woman was my husband's mistress. As I glared at her, a familiar voice cut through the tumult, pulling me from my thoughts. "Why on earth is Christina here?" the voice exclaimed. Recognition dawned upon me. Of course, the woman beside my husband was none other than Brenna, his sister. Time seemed to stretch out endlessly as I processed the surreal unfolding of events. Suspicions of my husband's deceit had simmered within me, but I never anticipated this revelation. Even if he had come to check on our son, his entanglement with another woman, especially his own sister, was beyond comprehension. Despite the urge to confront them immediately, the sight of my husband and his sister being wheeled away on a stretcher forced me to restrain myself. I knew they couldn't evade scrutiny, so I resolved to address the situation later. Suppressing the surge of emotions, I redirected my focus to my son, the initial reason for my visit. With a heavy weight settling in my chest, I sought solace in his room, attempting to untangle the jumble of feelings swirling within me. When I checked my phone, it was flooded with messages from my husband, each one attempting to gloss over the situation. Notably absent was any mention of our son's hospitalization. Deciding to continue ignoring him, I waited patiently for another hour. Soon enough, the doctor who had tended to my son the previous day appeared. Their smile was reassuring as they delivered the news. Your son is doing remarkably well. His recovery is progressing faster than anticipated. His fever has subsided and his condition has stabilized. Initially, we were concerned about the possibility of infection, but it seems he was suffering from heat stroke in addition to a cold. The doctor's praise for my actions brought a sense of validation, even though I knew much of it was owed to my mother's guidance. I made a mental note to express my gratitude to her, perhaps with a thoughtful gift of fancy meat next time. I offered a deep bow of gratitude to the compassionate doctor before me, though beneath my relief for my son's improving health, a storm of anger brewed within me. It was clear that I was about to confront a significant ordeal. As I struggled to contain my emotions, my son's innocent remark about my stern expression snapped me back to composure. I quickly donned a smile for his sake. Mama's face is just pretending to be scary. I'm not scared, I reassured him before stepping away with a promise to return soon. Exiting the hospital, I braced myself for the impending conversation with my husband, who had bombarded me with over 100 missed calls. The moment he answered, a torrent of excuses spilled forth. It wasn't what it looked like. There's an explanation, he'd insisted, attempting to justify his actions. His misplaced priorities only fueled my frustration. Shouldn't his foremost concern be our son's well-being? There's no way a man so absorbed in such a despicable act with his own sister, neglecting our son's well-being, could ever truly care. I muttered to myself, the bitterness evident in my voice. With a husband like him, I feared for our son's future. Recognizing the bleak reality of my husband's character, I made the difficult decision to divorce him. Despite the challenges ahead, I was determined to navigate them for the sake of my son. Turning to face him, I unleashed the pent-up anger that had been simmering within me. So, while our son was suffering, you were preoccupied with that, weren't you? Indulging whenever you had a moment to spare, and with your own sister, no less. It's utterly repulsive, I spat out at him. He stood speechless, unable to offer a defense. Pressing on, I delivered my final blow. Oh, and just so you know, I've already informed your parents. I won't involve your company for now. It would be a shame if you couldn't meet your obligations for alimony and child support. Goodbye, I concluded, severing ties with my husband with those parting words. 3 days later, my son made a full recovery, surpassing all expectations. With the discharge process complete, I returned home, embracing my beloved son's restored health. Naturally, my husband was nowhere to be found. In the aftermath of the ordeal, my husband sought me out to offer his apologies in person. Yet, as he pleaded for forgiveness, I solemnly handed him the divorce papers I had already prepared and signed. This wasn't an isolated incident, I responded, my voice devoid of warmth. I know the truth now. Your sister confessed everything. I anticipated my husband's reluctance to accept the reality of our situation, knowing that our path to divorce wouldn't be easily agreed upon. To confront him and ensure his silence, I decided to approach his sister, who was complicit in the affair. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding ceremony with your boyfriend, I began, masking my disdain with forced politeness. Thank you. I was actually thinking of crafting a clever story to share the news. Would you like to hear it? She replied, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. Are you planning to disclose everything to everyone? I interjected, my tone sharpening. I want the truth to come out. It's time people see you for who you truly are, I retorted with a smirk, relishing the power of my revelation. Please, don't do this. It would destroy my life, she pleaded, a hint of desperation in her voice. Feigning contemplation, I maintained a composed smile as I proposed, I suppose I could keep this under wraps on one condition. How about you disclose every detail of your encounters with my husband? Then perhaps I'll consider staying silent. Though rest assured, your brother will still feel the sting of betrayal. What say you? Without a moment's hesitation, my sister-in-law acquiesced, her desperation palpable. Please spare him the pain. I'll tell you everything, she confessed readily. Confronting my husband with the truth left him reeling, his beloved sister's betrayal cutting him to the core. Overwhelmed, he collapsed from the shock, only to awaken and promptly sign the divorce papers, burdened by the weight of his betrayal. Taking decisive action, I enlisted the aid of a lawyer to secure divorce, custody of our son, and the appropriate financial support. Though my husband initially balked at the demands, a whispered reminder of his potential exposure prompted his compliance. With a heavy heart, he departed the lawyer's office, resigned to the consequences of his actions. Following the revelation of the affair, word somehow reached my husband's workplace, leading to a stern rebuke from his superiors. A month later, he faced the harsh consequence of dismissal, forced to seek employment at a food factory. Now, tasked with adorning cakes with strawberries to fulfill his obligations for alimony and child support, he found himself ostracized among his co-workers, his past indiscretions a constant source of discomfort, fueled by incessant rumors, particularly among younger female colleagues. As for my husband's sister, despite my discretion in withholding the truth, the details of her involvement inevitably surfaced. Her engagement swiftly crumbled under the weight of suspicion when her boyfriend, echoing my own doubts, enlisted the services of a private investigator to uncover the truth. Following the shattered engagement, she found herself facing a hefty compensation demand, forcing her to seek employment at a nightclub to make ends meet. Recently, her ex-boyfriend, perhaps feeling a pang of remorse, handed her a compromising photo of their affair with a casual, "Keep it for when you might need it." She couldn't help but marvel at his audacity as she stowed it away in her drawer, a potential leverage should her husband attempt any further indiscretions. In pursuit of a fresh start, she relocated to her parents' home, where she's rebuilding her life with their unwavering support, especially in raising her son. Despite their geographical distance, her parents eagerly offer assistance whenever needed, although she strives not to burden them excessively, reserving their help for times of genuine necessity. Since recovering from that severe fever, my son has enjoyed pristine health, almost as if the ordeal never occurred. Remarkably, he's received awards for perfect attendance 3 years running, seemingly oblivious to the absence of his biological father. Witnessing his contentment each day brings me unparalleled joy. On another note, our family has expanded with the addition of Angel, a charming white cat. Originally a frequent visitor to our yard, Angel quickly endeared himself to me. Reluctant to bid him farewell upon moving, I brought him along to my parents' home. Now, he's formed a close bond with them, becoming an integral part of our family alongside my son. As I sit on the porch, gently stroking Angel's fur, I find solace in the warmth of family and companionship. Watching my son thrive in the loving embrace of my parents, with Angel by our side, fills me with a profound sense of contentment and gratitude for the life we've built together.